Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deeper seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. But time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Afternoon, everyone. It's Jim here. It's Sunday afternoon, 12:30. So welcome if you're joining us live. I appreciate you taking some time out from your weekend. And the idea here is to do, 30, 40 minutes or so of live revision, helping AQA level business students get ready for paper one coming up next week. And of course, we know that paper one is a key paper to get out of the way and do well in. Half of it is 25 markers. So this session is focused purely on 25 markers. We've got several hundred people joining us live already and more joining in. So we're going to dive straight in. We're not going to do a big reveal because my old mucker Graham is not able to join me today. But I know he sends his best wishes to you all as you complete revision today and tomorrow. And of course, he'll be back for our paper one warm up tomorrow night. So that's where the other guy is, Luke. So this is 25 marks, 25 markers. Let's get straight into a bit of exam technique before we dive in. What I've done is I've written 4 new 25 mark questions, and we're going to spend a bit of time unpicking them, asking for your thoughts on possible points, possible lines of argument, evaluation. And I've had to go writing a few sort of semi-part answers, not full answers. For example, conclusions and paragraphs to some of them. But the main thing is to have a look at the 4 questions. But firstly, just to remind you that in paper one, there are 2 25 markers, so 50 out of 100 are for the 2 extended response questions. In section C, you get to choose 1 question from 2. And in section D, choose 1 question from 2. In fact, it's the only part of any of the papers where you get a choice as to which question. And the reason for putting this on the screen is it'll be familiar with you if you've been on our Grade Booster courses, is that AQA are looking for focused responses that really do these 25 markers justice. They're not looking for page after page after page, point after point after point. So the ideal structure for 25 marker is 2 really well-developed arguments, 1 for, 1 against. You can do 3 if you wish, but you certainly shouldn't be doing 4. I think 1 for, 1 against is really efficient, and that leaves you enough time to do justice to the judgment. So by having an argument for, an argument against that are developed in depth, well developed, in context, there's your balance, there's your analysis, there's your application and your knowledge. That should leave you enough time, I think 10 minutes for a half page or 3/4 page conclusion or judgment. That judgment needs to respond to the question. In other words, answer the question. It needs to be built on your arguments. It needs to be balanced, but it also needs to add value. And we'll talk about that as we look at some examples of conclusions. Okay, so let's get into our session. Now we've got 60 minutes, hopefully maybe in a few more minutes, 65 minutes or so in paper 1 to have a go at the 225 markers. If you were splitting it 30 minutes for each, and I would definitely make sure that you start the 25 markers after an hour, then this is one way of splitting it up. A couple of minutes thinking about your answer. So time spent thinking and planning is always worth doing. And there is a strong positive correlation between students who take time, a minute or two, to plan their arguments, plan their evaluation, plan their context before they start writing. If you wish, you can include a 1-sentence introduction. It's often a good idea. And the examiners have said this often sets the scene. So the evaluation driving the response. Then I will be spending probably 8 or 9 minutes for each major argument. Try and make them big, broad brush arguments. Probably half a page, 3/4 of a page for an argument. And then that leaves you 10 minutes to really go to town on the conclusion, which needs to answer the question, it needs to be balanced. And as I say, we need to add some value. So really what that means is extra application. Elif's asking, does our conclusion have to be so long? I always do them short and still get 20 out of 25. Well, that's great. So there's still 5 more marks to be going. Well, evaluation is 10 out of 25 marks. So it's 40% of the marks. It's really important that your conclusion does your response justice. It's not a sign-off. You need to work really hard on your conclusion. In fact, I will be tempted to cut back on my points to make sure I had enough time to write a really strong and well-developed conclusion. Now, evaluation, of course, it's important. There are lots of different ways of writing a conclusion. I've got a couple of examples to show you. We mentioned this in Grade Booster. It really doesn't matter which method you use, provided you firstly answer the question. So, for example, if you take the 5 W's approach here, what is your judgment? What is your opinion? And then justify it. So why have you reached that judgment or recommendation? Of course, this works for all evaluation questions. Come back to your argument. What was the compelling argument that's led you to your judgment? But also consider the alternatives. So reflect the fact there is balance, there is some merit in the alternatives. But even better, add some value by maybe bringing in some extra application or consider it, and it depends on point to help consider the fact that there's uncertainty about your judgment. Another approach that lots of students use, which is actually nothing to do with me, but it's quite funny that my name's 3/4 of it, which is the AJIM method, exactly the same as the 5 W's. A is answer the question using the words of the question, the evaluation hook. Justify why. Explore what it depends on, recognising there's balance, or recognising some merit in the alternative, but then maybe coming back to some more application to help support your judgment. So we're going to work our way through some questions, but the main thing so far we've covered is that in half an hour, you need to be spending at least 10 minutes on your conclusion. It is the most important part of your 25 markers. So don't sacrifice the conclusion for trying to squeeze in 1 or 2 more points. You need to do it justice. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Now, what I've done is I've written 4 new questions. These are not meant to be predictions in any way whatsoever. They are exam style, and they are drawn from Section C, Section D, which tends to be Year 1, Year 2. These are topics that haven't really been precisely examined in this way, in 25 markers, but that's not to say they're going to come up. But what I want to do is use the rest of this session to work with you to unpick these questions so we can revise as we go, of course, which is useful, but also to have a think about how we might answer these questions efficiently and effectively. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, first of all, in the live chat is to have a read through these 4 questions and choose which ones you're going to do. So maybe in the live chat, type in the number, maybe 21 and 23 or whatever it is. I'll set the clock going just whilst you have a think, and then maybe when you've made a choice, just put something in the live chat that maybe gives me a few pointers as to why you've chosen what you've chosen. So over to you to make your choices. That's a minute, and I reckon in paper one, at least 2 minutes making the choice. Most importantly, you need to be, before you even put pen to paper writing an answer to one of these, you need to be sure that you know what the question's asking, what it's about, and can you write for 20, 25 minutes efficiently and give the examiner a well-supported and justified answer. We're not looking for 5 pages, we're looking for a page and a half, aren't we? Maybe 2 pages max. So looking at the live chat, thank you very much for everyone who's posted their choice in, and also increasingly some justification for their choice and what they would start to write. It looks to me as though 80% of people in section C have chosen question 21 on labour turnover. Therefore, 20% of people going for the technology and efficiency question. And again, just scrolling through, it looks like question 23 is by a distance the most popular. And I think that kind of makes sense. I think 21 and 23, having had a think about these and how to get writing answers to them, I think they're probably the most accessible questions. I don't think 22 and 24 are impossible, as we'll see shortly. But yeah, I think that's a good choice. So what we'll do is we'll go through each of these 4 questions now. Now, hopefully this will also be useful from a revision point of view. It may well be that it picks up some bits and bobs that you think, oh, I just need to top up my revision on that. But the main thing is just to get some thinking done about how to answer these. I would say 21 and 23 are the 2 most popular choices amongst our live chat audience. Well, let's dive in, shall we? Let's have a look at them. So let's get on with the first one there, which most of you said you wanted to have a go at. So here's our question. Many businesses suffer from high labour turnover. It's true. Is offering higher pay the best way for businesses to reduce labour turnover? Let's unpick that question before I pass it over to you. Don't forget, the most important thing is to unpick questions. If your answer meets the demands of the question, you are on your way to very high marks, because a lot of answers don't. This question, I think it's quite easy to spot. It's about labour turnover. So that's the percentage or proportion of employees who leave the business in a given period. It's the opposite of labour retention. And in terms of our endpoints and our arguments, we really need to consider how and why financial rewards or pay might be the best way for a business to reduce high labour turnover or reduce labour turnover. That's really where our arguments need to get to. But obviously, with an evaluation question, there's an evaluation hook. Well, the word that we need to keep coming back to is it the best way? Is pay or financial rewards, is that the best way to reduce labour turnover? Or could there be a better way? Or is it possible that financial rewards are ineffective in reducing labour turnover? And why? How and why is that the case? And obviously, for all of our 25 markers, we need balance, considering balance and a range of issues. And then our judgment needs to answer the question and be supported. So let's have a look at this. Lots of people already. Fantastic. Great to see people using some motivational theorists. So I'll invite you to put those into the live chat. I'll stick some on screen. Let's unpick this question, shall we? So really, I think my thinking on this is, well, I need an argument that says, yeah, higher pay is the best way. How and why? But then I also want to have a counter. Why higher pay may not work, or could there be a better way? So over to you. I'll stick the clock going again, and I'll see if I can pick out a few points. But by all means, type some into the live chat. Let's get some of your answers on the screen. Some amazing answers coming into the live chat, which is great to see. And in particular, attempts to link theories, models and theories. motivation doesn't appear in the question, but clearly it's going to be a significant factor, isn't it? Because there's a reason why people leave employment. It must be related to the fact that they feel dissatisfied or demotivated, amongst other factors. So really good. I can't put everyone's on the screen, and there are lots of even more detailed answers coming through onto the live chat. So really good stuff. Really good. We've got three more of these, so I'll try to get more people on the screen. So don't forget, we mentioned with 25 markers, we don't have time to write lots and lots of points. So we're going to have to be selective. Maybe pick one big point and develop it. Why higher pay may be the best way or an effective way to reduce labour turnover, and then pick maybe one big point for our counter argument. It's much more important to develop them fully and then leave enough time for that big conclusion rather than giving the examiner a shopping list of 3, 4, 5 points, none of which are well developed. But there are some possible points we could pick. I went with the fact that, as many did in the live chat there, linking it to Hertzberg's hygiene factors, that if pay is poor, uncompetitive, that can be a source of job satisfaction, which may in turn be a cause of high labour turnover. So therefore, higher pay can address that. You sort the problem, address the hygiene factor, get it sorted. I went with the fact that more competitive pay in some industries may actually be what you need to attract and keep skilled employees, particularly if there's competition for those people. So, for example, that's a big issue in healthcare and education, where there are shortages of people. Therefore, you've got no chance of keeping your staff if you don't offer competitive pay. And also, you might argue that you might use a Maslow approach in terms of our hierarchy of needs, that by using higher pay, we can sort out some of the lower level needs and therefore enable employees to address and reach higher level needs, such as self-actualization, for example, which may mean that they feel better or more likely to stay with you. So there's a number of points we could develop there. I'll show you the one that I went with, or the conclusion, but you just need to pick one of those or pick one big point. Counter arguments. Again, lots of people in the live chat have mentioned, well, pay just may not be the reason. What's the underlying cause of high labour turnover? Why are so many people leaving a business? It could be pay, but it might be something else. For example, it could be a toxic organisational culture. It could be there's a power culture in the business, which is leaving people or encouraging people to leave for a different culture somewhere else. It could be that working conditions are poor. So again, we're back into Hertzberg. So pay may not be the underlying or the root cause. Also, it's possible if you did pay people more, it might actually lead to higher labour turnover because the business needs to get rid of people. So a low margin business may not be able to afford significantly higher pay. That might actually have the opposite effect. And I think there's definitely a strong Hertzberg feel to this question. Pay, yeah, sure, but what about the motivators? What about maybe the non-monetary or non-financial factors, such as involvement in decision-making, empowerment, work-life balance, flexibility, promotion opportunities, factors that Hertzberg said do influence motivation rather than hygiene factors, which are a source of dissatisfaction. So I think I can see why lots of you said you'd want to do question 21. I think it'd be a really good question to do. It's really accessible. Lots of other models you can include in there. A number of people in the live chat have mentioned Hackman and Oldham, the model of job design. So by improving job design, it may reduce the need for pay to be a significant factor. Lots of people talking about the need for maybe a decentralized or delegated approach, giving people more empowerment, job enrichment, all those kind of things that you can argue maybe more important than pay in terms of keeping labour turnover down. Really good stuff. Now, before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to show an example of a conclusion, because I mentioned right at the start that conclusions are so important in the 25 markers. So I've had a go at writing a conclusion to this question. I'll stick it on screen. Let's read through it just to show you I think the kind of depth, the kind of level that you should be aiming for, particularly if you're writing short conclusions. Something like this. So here, really, I was sort of using the AJIM or 5Ws model. So I know that with my conclusion, I know I need it to answer the question right at the start. Okay, that's what the judgment or the conclusion is there to do. Answer the question. So I've said, in conclusion, Offering pay is likely to be the best way for many businesses to reduce labour turnover, though not all businesses. So that's my answer. It's going to be a good way for many, but not all. And then A, done. J for justify. I justify this because, as Hertzberg suggested, inadequate or uncompetitive pay can be a significant source of job dissatisfaction, which can lead to increased labour turnover if alternative, better paid work is available. That would have been my point that I developed before. So it's not going to be a new point, but I'm going to refer to the argument that I've used as my compelling reason for that conclusion. Then just develop that a little bit further by offering better financial rewards, such as, bit of application here, higher hourly wages or achievable performance-related rewards. Businesses are more likely to both attract and retain employees. It's important to retain them, isn't it? To reduce labour turnover, particularly in industries such as seasoning coming in here, such as healthcare and education, where workers are in short supply and high demand. So extra application, your conclusion adds value to your evaluation. Now here comes my balance. Of course, higher pay may not always be the best solution to labour turnover, particularly where poor management or toxic culture means staff leaving. In these situations, increasing pay without addressing the causes may not solve the problem. And then lastly, a bit more, higher pay is perhaps more likely to reduce labour turnover when combined with other non-financial factors, such as, bit of application here, offering flexible working or better work-life balance or opportunities for promotion. So all I want to do is just work you through that conclusion. That's kind of the level. It's about half a page. It's 10 minutes. It answers the question, it justifies it, it adds some value, some little bit of extra application, but it's also a balance. It recognises that it's not always the case, isn't it? That there are some situations where pay could be an effective way. And that's what we're looking for. And if you can get that kind of conclusion or something like it written down for each of your 25 markers, that's going to significantly raise your game. Because the average mark in the 25 markers is between 11 and 13, depending on the question. And a lot of the time, that's due to the fact that the conclusion is nothing more than a sign-off. Okay, so that's that question done. Let's move on to the next question. And again, it's going to be over to you once we've unpicked it. Not many people went for this one, but let's do it anyway, just maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So the question is, to what extent is increased use of technology the best way for a business to improve operational efficiency? This is taken straight from the spec. The spec asks students to consider the use of technology as a way to improve operational efficiency. So it's a classic 25 marker, really. Not yet been answered or asked in that way. Yasmin's straight in, so I'm going to put Yasmin's answer onto the screen shortly, but let's just quickly unpick it. It's clearly about technology, isn't it? And the question is, how and why might technology help us improve operational efficiency? So we have to talk about improving efficiency, and is greater use of technology the best way to do that? About to find out. Over to you. Let's see some of your points in the live chat. Have a go. Wow, some amazing points coming in. I'll try and pick out some more. We've had EDI, electronic data interchange. We've had supply chain. We've had automation, robotics. Dan's making a point just coming into the live chat there about use of robotics to complete tasks that either labour can't or they can only do inefficiently. Lots of people making the case for capital intensive processes. Wow, this is sensational. That's all it is. It's just a plan, isn't it? So you just want to write a sentence down in your notes. That's the point you're going to develop. And I'll keep an eye out for some counter arguments as we go. When you start to plan these answers, you maybe start to think, maybe I should have done question 22 rather than question 21. But of course, you'll be fine whichever one you do. So again, with this question, the evaluation hook is increased use of technology the best way to improve efficiency? So efficiency, I'm thinking, lower unit costs, better use of capacity, maybe even more efficiency of, as in terms of quality of service, customer service, for example. So there are lots of ways that you could develop an answer for this. The counter argument is going to be, why might it not work, or is there a better way? But I think the obvious one is to say technology may not, in the short run anyway, improve efficiency. I think that's the easier way to develop this counter argument. I've gone with 3 points. I only need one. So technology such as automation and robotics can eliminate labor-intensive, repetitive, time-consuming tasks, and also it can improve or reduce human error, improve quality. Therefore, if you think about it, better quality, more output for perhaps lower cost. That's going to be lower unit cost efficiency. I think there's also an argument, particularly if you think about service sector businesses, that technology enables more efficient management and efficient communication and teamwork. That's also part of operations. So quicker problem solving, quicker decision making, particularly where we're in situations where employees are working remotely. And I think also you can make an argument about customer service efficiency. That's another part of operations. So the use of chatbots, maybe AI-powered customer service tools that can potentially significantly reduce the routine customer service issues, thereby improving customer service efficiency, lowering costs. I've not yet found an AI bot or chatbot that does that, but maybe this time next year we will. On the counter side, we're not going to go through an answer on this one because I want to spend a bit of time on the last two questions. I just think with technology, it's easy to say that technology is going to improve things. So I think the main argument is quite easy. The counter argument, a little bit harder. You have to work a bit harder and make the case for how it might not work. So for example, technology is costly. Implementing technology can be expensive for the kit, for the design, for the software, for the installation, but also for the disruption. So there's lots of extra costs, as well as the maintenance and upgrades. So actually, taken together, you might find that technology increases your costs. Has it had any impact on output or efficiency? We don't know, do we? Maybe hard to measure. And I think this is the classic argument, isn't it, about technology? It's technology for technology's sake. Do you become over-reliant on it? Does it make you actually more vulnerable to things like cyber attack, phishing attacks, systems failures? And actually, before you know it, the technology itself has disrupted the operations of the business such that efficiency is smaller. So it doesn't really matter which one of those you pick, as long as you've got balance. One well-developed argument as to why technology will help efficiency, then a nice, strong counter-argument. And as a number of people said in the live chat, we're suddenly realizing now that the conclusion is the most important thing, the 25 marker. That's why 2 well-developed points, 1 for, 1 against, leaves you enough time to really go to town on the conclusion, which we'll see as we work our way through the next 2 questions. Excellent stuff. Right. Let's move on. We're halfway through our questions. I wanted to go through each of these 4 in a little bit of detail because as well as thinking about the 25 markers, we're also revising, aren't we? And it could be we come across some stuff that we think, I just need to spend a bit more. Before we do that, Lil's asking, do you do 2 for, 2 against, or 1 for, 1 against? Well, my preferred method is 1 for, 1 against with a big conclusion, because you haven't got a lot of time to write in a 25 marker. And I'd rather go for depth and a big conclusion, really well developed, that adds value. Some students go 2 for, 1 against a conclusion. I think the problem with 2 for, 2 against, those points almost by definition are going to be relatively underdeveloped, possibly, but also there's a risk that you don't leave enough time for that big conclusion. So, but you can write as many points as you wish. but you only need balance. So therefore 1 for 1 against should work. Right, let's go through this one then. So strategic drift. Is it inevitable that large businesses, there's our context for this, isn't it, that are market leaders, is it inevitable that market leaders will experience strategic drift? Well, it's clear about strategic drift. So we don't need to define it as long as our answers demonstrate knowledge and understanding of what that is, which is essentially where a strategy diverges from the external environment such that the strategy is no longer relevant or successful. And the question is that a risk for market leaders? So our situation here is how and why might market leaders suffer from strategic drift, or why might they not? And specifically the context we're given is large businesses. So we need to have something in there that makes our answers about large businesses rather than tiny startups. And of course, the scope is always the same. So over to you. Lots of answers already coming in. I'm going to stick as many on as I can. Could you give me an argument why market leaders will indeed experience strategic drift? And a counter argument. Why is it not inevitable? Over to you. Wow, so I'm absolutely blown away by the answers coming in, including some classic examples of strategic drift, such as Kodak, such as Nokia. Of course, they're not the only examples, but they are two absolute crackers. And it's nice to see some economists in the audience as well, including Bethany, who's clearly doing A-level economics as well, talking about the concept of X inefficiency. Now, X inefficiency isn't officially on the AQA levels business spec, thank goodness, but it's fine because it's effectively making the point that, it's complacency, isn't it? Managers in large businesses, tend to be well paid and feel as though they're going to be successful whatever they do. Therefore, maybe don't have the hunger, the edge. Let's pick out a few more here. Joe's making a good point that large businesses are more bureaucratic, maybe have a more complex, perhaps a taller structure. And consequently, the owners and particularly the managers, often in those businesses, the owners are the shareholders, they're divorced in many cases from the business anyway, but the managers become less in touch with that external environment. They may be unaware that they're drifting. This is a great answer, though. Counter argument from Rufus. Large businesses have highly skilled employees. They've got resources, large revenues. They can use that for market research. That helps them decrease risk, helps them adapt. Highly skilled workforce, and I would add to that, I totally agree with that, and resources helps avoid drift. That's a great example. Sheila's making the point about Blockbuster and Netflix, which is another classic, isn't it? Blockbuster, Nokia, Kodak are the three classics. These are amazing answers. This is really encouraging. I'm sure you can write some good paragraphs and conclusions to support these sort of mini plans, really. Let's have a look. Chillian's in the house today. Chillian's been to lots of our live streams. Yes, they will experience drift. Market leaders tend to become complacent. They do tend to become complacent. Izzy makes a great point. In fact, Izzy's been typing in lots of answers to this, making a link with management style. I think that's true, actually. A large business with a particular management style, and you can link it with organizational culture, is perhaps more likely to suffer from drift than one maybe where there is a hunger, an edge. Dare I say it, a younger management team. hoping not to make the point that older people are more likely to suffer from drift. Who knows? Awesome answers in the live chat. I do encourage you to have a look in the live chat. What did I go with? Not really much of an improvement on your great points. I went with why would market leaders experience drift? Complacency. Lots of people in the live chat talked about complacency. So market leaders may become complacent and fail to innovate. They assume that their current success will continue indefinitely. Why wouldn't it? We're the biggest business, we're the market leader. Why wouldn't we? But you might argue that large businesses, market leaders, become more resistant to change. We've got where we are because of what we do. Why should we change? And also, I think you can make a link with Ansoff here. A market leader may be more tempted to adopt a strategy of market penetration to build market share further, rather than look at the other alternatives, market development, new product development, or maybe even diversification. So in other words, you put all your eggs in one basket to continue to be an even bigger market leader. And consequently, what happens if that market enters the decline phase? Wow, we're into product life cycle. All of a sudden, you've got a large share of a declining market. That is classic strategic drift, isn't it? Exactly what happened to Nokia and to BlackBerry and to Kodak. Excellent. What about the counter arguments that say, no problem here. Strategic drift, not a problem. Well, I think a number of people in the live chat talked about the size and strength of market power. So market leaders often have significant resources, profit, financial capital, expertise has been mentioned by several of us in the live chat. That should help you identify the potential for strategic drift. They invest a lot in market research. They have the best intelligence, the best insights. They should be able to spot when the market is changing. And I think also, I've just put down here ventures and takeovers. If you look at lots of businesses that have sustained their market leadership, it's often because they have spotted emerging threats, maybe an innovative company with a technology that might threaten them. They buy them. It's the best way to make sure you're on top of the change and avoid drift. There we go. Now, I thought what I had to go at doing is I just wanted to write one example paragraph, which is the counter argument, isn't it? Really just picking one of those. So let's stick this on screen. Let me know what you think to this. So I've mentioned that for 25 marker, I think you can get away with, no, it's not a question of getting away with. I think a good answer has one really well-developed argument for and a well-developed argument against, and then that leads you to your judgment. So this is the kind of thing I'd be trying to write half a page maybe for my counter argument. So it says, of course, for many market leaders, strategic drift is unlikely. So is it inevitable? So we need to be talking about how likely it is if they can take advantage of their stronger market position and resources. I've used those words deliberately because I think that helps me write quite a big, broad point without it being too narrow. So basically, market leaders should be able to sort themselves out, shouldn't they? So I've written market leaders often have access to significant resources such as application, more and cheaper finance, leading distribution, industry expertise. And these help them identify and respond to strategic drift before it becomes a problem. Bit more application now. For example, to protect their higher profits, market leaders often invest significantly in market research and intelligence gathering, which means it's more likely they'll be informed about emerging trends, changing customer needs, and competitive threats. Now, at no stage have I defined strategic drift in this paragraph, or indeed the first one. But you don't need to. The examiner can see you're writing about how the external environment changes and how a business needs to stay on top of that. So we talk about changing customer needs, competitive threats, emerging trends. That is what strategic drift is about. So the analysis continues to respond to the changing external environment. There we go again, strategic drift. Market leaders might use their resource advantage to use ventures or takeovers to buy innovative businesses or gain access to new technologies. And I finish off with a bit more application. So Alphabet, brackets Google, is a good example. It uses its profits and market dominance to make investments in technology such as the Internet of Things and AI to help it respond to technology and threats to its market leadership. In other words, that's the argument, isn't it? Big market leaders, large businesses, should be able to counter the threat by understanding the market, having the expertise, but also, if there is a threat, buy it up, invest in it. And I think that's all I would do for my counter argument. I don't think I need anything more before I move on to my conclusion. Let me know what you in the live chat what you think to that as a counter argument. I reckon that's half a page, and it depends on your handwriting. That's all I need. So, and obviously we need a judgment. Let's move on to our last question, shall we, for the last 10 minutes of this session. What have we done so far? We've looked at strategic drift. We've looked at automation. We've looked at pay, efficiency. Let's move on to possibly the most accessible question of all of them, which is a bit of Ansoff, but also internal and external growth. So here's the question. A business wants to follow a strategy of market development. That's quite important, that. Market development. That needs to inform our answer. It needs to be like a stick of rock, market development throughout the answer. To what extent is external growth likely to be a better approach than organic growth for this strategy of market development to succeed? So what do we think? Well, it's clearly the question is about external, internal growth, isn't it? Is external going to be better than organic growth? In what context? To make a success of a strategy of market development. So we know it's about Ansoff. It's existing products into new markets. Yeah. So it's not new products into the existing market. That's new product development. This is existing products into new markets. That might be new markets, or it could be new geographical markets. So we need to consider whether external growth is better than organic growth. Over to you. Can you, in a live chat, last time for you to type in your responses on this, can you come up with or think of some arguments? Jacob's already in there. So Sheila, can you come up with arguments that say, yeah, external growth is going to be the best strategy if we want to achieve successful market development? Or maybe put against the argument for organic growth. I think that's the obvious way to answer this. Make the case for external or make the case for organic. Over to you. So the key with this question is to recognise it is about market. The context is market development. Obviously, we should all be fairly familiar with the advantages and disadvantages of external versus organic growth. But the key to high marks on this is to consider those in the context of market development. And obviously, linking that back to Ansoff, who said that market development alongside new product development was both medium risk, didn't he? Market penetration, low risk. Medium risk, top right, bottom left. And then obviously the higher risk is diversification. Some amazing answers coming through. It's absolutely blowing me away how good these are. Let's pick out just a few, maybe one or two people who've not yet appeared on the screen. Mark's making the point here that a takeover is the argument for external growth. You're buying a business that's already established in the market. It has the expertise. It already understands that market. Therefore, it's fast tracking you in a way, isn't it, into that market. A market you may know little, if anything, about. Let's have a look. Enrico's going for a counter argument here. It might be slow, but organic growth builds the customer base and loyalty. Therefore, it means that you're less likely to overtrade or overspend on the takeover. You start to understand the market by trading in it without necessarily putting all your investment in once. Zentura is making the point. A lot of people have made in a live chat about how the risks of external growth, and actually they can all go horribly wrong. And actually you end up with a bit of a dud on your hands, particularly if you mismanage the takeover. Let's pick out a few more. These are amazing. I do encourage you to have a look at the live chat, which is brilliant. It's great to see that everyone's having a go because at the end of the day, the exam's just a day or two away. and it is all about planning answers. And there's no such thing as a perfect answer to this. The examiner doesn't have a shopping list of answers that they are prepared to accept, as long as your answer is relevant. Reese is making a good point here, is that external growth gives you the chance to benefit from synergy. And in particular, those synergies may arise from expanding into geographic markets. So there we go. There's our market development. Awesome. I'll keep my eye out for those awesome answers. Wow. Apologies, I can't get everybody on screen, but it's so encouraging to see such good quality thinking going on. Here's what I went with. And again, I wouldn't use all of these. I'll show you a conclusion I've written for it because I just wanted to finish off on conclusions. I think the key to a question like this is you've got to write about market development. That is our context, isn't it? Existing products into new markets. If we just wrote a vanilla answer about the benefits of external growth compared with the benefits of organic growth, it's not really answering the demands of the question. It'd be interesting to read, but the point is we're told the situation. A business wants to move into new markets with existing products. That's what we have to focus on. So if we keep coming back to market development, then we're staying focused on the question. So I would say that a takeover potentially, if it's the right one, gives you instant market entry. Chances are, hopefully, you're buying an established brand or a fast-growing business in the target market. That's a quicker way to establish a presence. And also, because it's market development, you're getting an established brand, an established customer base. So you are into the market. You might argue that it also helps you reduce competition at the same time as you enter the market because you've removed a competitor. That competitor now works for you. Therefore, that might make it more easier or less risky to enter the market. And I think also because this is existing products into new markets, it could help the business achieve economies of scale. It could actually be that by selling more existing products into an existing market, because we've now got a takeover, actually that means that the whole scale of the enlarged business gets bigger. Therefore, we may be able to access perhaps some purchasing economies of scale, thereby reducing unit costs. So I think there are some quite strong arguments, but as I say, I think don't get too hung up on coming up with lots of arguments for takeovers. It needs to be, how might a takeover help you make a success of market development? It's really, really important that. Counter arguments. Well, the classic ones, takeovers usually fail. They mainly fail because you pay too much or you buy the wrong business. The problem with market development is you're investing in a new market, isn't it? So that's the point to develop. Therefore, by definition, you probably know less about that market than if it's an existing market. Therefore, you might argue you're more likely to buy the wrong business or pay too much. So link it to market development. I think also you might make the argument so that's an argument against external growth, but you could also make a really powerful argument for organic growth as the best way. So we could all argue about takeovers and how they all fail, but why not make the case for organic growth? If you're moving into a new market, you want to learn about that market. How do your existing products fit? Do they need adapting? What do customers feel? Are customer needs and wants different? So by being organic, you're going to learn more, perhaps slower, but you will adapt your marketing mix over time. Therefore, you might argue that makes it more successful. And I think that gives you greater control. And I think loads and loads of examples of this where well-known businesses have used organic growth to achieve market development because there's no need to do takeovers. You can do if you want, but there's no need to. So what I thought I'd finish off on just for this session is just take you through a conclusion. So we said right at the start that the conclusion needs to drive your response. Your evaluation, your conclusion drives your 25 marker. It is by a distance the most important part of your response. It's not 2 lines. So your judgment needs to really go to town and you need to leave enough time to do it well. Here's mine. Here's my judgment. Have a read through this. Let's go through it and see what you think. Does this answer the question? Fingers crossed. I wrote it about 2 hours ago, so I'm just reminding myself what I've written. So the question was, to what extent is external growth likely to be a better approach than organic for a strategy of market development? And I've written, For most businesses, organic growth is likely to be a better approach. So I'm using the evaluation hook than external growth for successful market development. So it doesn't say will always be, but I said it's likely to be organic better than growth, external for market development. So I've answered the question. And then the question is, can I justify that in my conclusion? This is essentially because organic growth is lower risk than external. And that becomes even more important when trying to enter a new market, as Ansoff classified market development as medium risk. So that's referring, and I would have developed my point and saying, look, organic is lower risk. That would have been my main argument for. So I'm referring back to my previous argument. So my judgment is supported. And then I really want to try and explain, add a bit of value. So I think this is a good example of how just one or two little examples in your conclusion, more application, not new points, can help add value, make sure conclusion drive the response. So I said, for example, Amazon has used organic growth to rapidly enter new product markets, such as cloud computing and geographical markets such as Asia, rather than relying on taking over existing businesses in those markets. It's organically invested in its e-commerce platform, its logistics and product development to enter many new markets. So there's just an extra little bit of application. So I wouldn't have used Amazon previously. I bring it into my conclusion. I'm adding some value. Now here comes my balance. Our judgment needs to be balanced. Of course, not all businesses have the market power and resources of Amazon. And for them, there may be attractive takeover targets that mean they're better able to establish a presence in a new market development again. So there's my balance. And really, I just want to sort of say, well, what does this all depend on? Where do you make the choice? I said, well, this suggests that much depends on barriers to entry to new markets. It may be that a takeover is the best way to overcome barriers such as customer loyalty and existing market power, even though the takeover could require a much bigger investment and could fail. It might still be the best way. However, finishing off with a bit more application, most businesses are likely to enjoy more success, so using the words of the question again, by taking the organic approach proven by the likes of Zara and Netflix to build their own brand and presence in new markets. So just a sign-off line with a bit of extra application that says, look, lots of big businesses use organic growth to achieve market development. And that's it. I think I quite like that conclusion. I think that does that question justice. What came before it would be hopefully two arguments, one for external, one for organic. That's all you need. Page and a half, 2 pages. Stay focused on the question, and hopefully that will do the trick. Any thoughts on that? What do you think? Obviously, a bit of a discussion going on about the footy this afternoon. This session's only got 4 more hours to go, so we will be finished in time for half time. Only kidding. Right, so there we go. Hopefully that's been useful. We've done, 4 25 markers there. We're going to finish the session, the live session, shortly. If anyone's got any comments or questions coming out of what we've done in that session, please add them to the comments. As soon as I press finish on this button down here, the comments are open on the session recording, and I'll do my best this afternoon, tonight and tomorrow to answer any questions about this. Don't forget, we've also been recently doing our MCQ practice and our 9-mark practice session, and also our short calculation practice questions. So that's all on the playlist. So if you've not yet had a chance to look at those sessions, you might find those useful ahead of paper 1. We're back tomorrow evening, early evening, for a gentle paper 1 warm-up. We won't be doing anything complicated, just maybe a few nice, easy multiple choice questions, maybe an easy calc, maybe an easy 9-marker, and also a chance for you to ask any further questions before we dive in to paper 1. I hope your revision keeps going well. Don't forget to take advantage of the good weather as well. Relax and get out. And hopefully I might see you live tomorrow. But if not, all the best in paper 1. Cheers, everyone.